There aren't a ton of games that I've happily put more than 100 hours into as quickly as I have with Mewgenics. This feline-flavored, turn-based roguelike tactical RPG takes place on a 10x10 grid, with mostly traditional classes like fighter, mage, hunter, tank, and necromancer, among others. What sets it apart, aside from the cutesy macabre art style that slathers its creative zones with blood and poop, is that so many of the skills and attributes your team will end up with are randomized and for the most part out of your control, all but ensuring that no two runs will play out the same way and forcing you to improvise and play the hand you're dealt. Combined with the absolute mountain of content here, there's so much that I'm still seeing new enemies, skills, mutations, and loot pop up after more than 150 hours. It's been able to draw me back in time and time again by dangling the possibility of an absolutely wild team coming together and bulldozing through the boss that turned my last party into kibble. I still haven't seen the final ending after all of that time, and this game has several of them, but I can't imagine I'll be getting tired of it before I do. Mewgenics is a game about cats, but it's not necessarily going to appeal to people who passionately love them, because it's a dark comedy that treats them as meat to be put through a grinder. If you've played any of Edmund Macmillan's previous classics, you'll have a sense of the type of humor to expect. It's delightfully gross and endlessly weird at every turn. Even knowing that, as a longtime cat owner myself, I was perhaps a little bit too conservative about just how unsympathetic and detached you're expected to be. I probably took longer than I should have to unlock crucial upgrades for my house, because doing so requires shipping dozens of cats off to live with a set of goofy weirdo NPCs never to be seen again. This guy will only take newborn kittens, and he needs tons of them to unlock crucial information on how to breed more. Other characters want older cats, mutated cats, injured cats, or cats who have been on runs to specific places in order to improve stores or add new rooms to your house, among other things. Mewgenics requires you to think differently about your characters than most RPGs. Cats with low or unremarkable stats are lost causes who will just weigh your squad down, so you're best off spending them like currency and keeping only the picks of various litters. Selectively breeding your cats takes place here. To pump out the best kittens, you'll have to place furniture with stats like simulation and comfort in a sort of Diablo-style inventory Tetris. And if you do it right, you'll end up with some good mutants that have innate abilities and get increasingly weird looking. Also, you've got to clean up poop every day, because for some reason there's no litter box. When everything's arranged to your liking, you hit the end day button and your cats will choose their own mates based on who's in a room with them, as well as their own genders, libidos, and orientations. Yep, there are gay and bisexual cats. And yeah, those animations take obvious pleasure in being unsettling, but they can be toned down in the menus, FYI. Optimizing this to produce the most powerful cats possible with the inherited stats and traits you want, while also avoiding too much inbreeding, is tricky. But you can't really fail at this part. Even if you lose or give away all of your cats, you can just start again from scratch using the strays who show up every day. Mewgenics doesn't make managing a lot of them super easy though. There's no way to view a list of all your cats, you just have to tediously cycle through them one at a time. You do unlock some tools to label them and view their gnarly family trees, but when you have 40 cats roaming around, it can be a pain to find what you're looking for when you're putting a team together. But that's another area where Mewgenics is unconventional and unpredictable, because you can't initially see what all their starting abilities will be. You'll get their base stats, mutations, and basic attacks, and sometimes they'll come with a spell or passive abilities from one of their parents. But it's not until you lock in their classes that you'll learn what you're really working with and if they'll synergize well. Each of the 12 classes has 75 abilities that might pop up, so I get the same thrill from this reveal that I do from picking my hand up in poker, or seeing modifiers on a daily run in Slay the Spire or Monster Train 2. Sometimes it's good news and I'm excited to see where it takes me, and sometimes it's not, and I brace myself for a thrashing and just hope for a surprise turnaround if I can survive long enough to level them up and unlock some better skills. I do wish it would let me see what items I have in my inventory while I'm picking my classes though. That's pretty important information for building synergies. It's also tricky to keep track of what you have on hand because gear in Mewgenics doesn't last forever. You can expect to get 3, maybe 4 runs out of something before it breaks. And that's assuming you don't wipe and lose all but one thing you took with you and picked up along the way. I actually enjoy the way this prevents me from relying too heavily on any one strategy though. Taking your favorite gear on only a few runs may not sound like much, but that's more than the actual cats get. Another reason you can't count on the tricks you used in the previous run working just as well on the next, even if you take the same classes and gear, is that each cat only gets one adventure in which to level up and develop their skills. You'll be able to use them in combat 1 or even 2 more times during special battles where major monsters attack your house. That was tough to get my head around at first, because I'm accustomed to my RPG party members sticking around for a while, or at least until I get them killed. When your party heads out onto one of the 3-acts adventure maps, you'll start with a single path that then branches off into 2, each of which has 2 completely different stages, each packed with their own sets of unique enemies. There are so many you definitely won't see them all even after several runs. You'll definitely want to stop and read their descriptions before diving in, because some of them have some extremely nasty tricks up their sleeves. The stakes are already pretty high given that your cats get permanently injured every time they get downed, and can be outright killed if their bodies are destroyed by attacks or eaten by zombies. But some enemies can instantly and permanently kill a cat, or infect it with a parasite that takes up a gear slot, for example. So watch out. Each zone is also stocked with multiple bosses that range from powered-up versions of each class to huge, nasty monsters with their own creative, game-changing mechanics. But on balance, these are excellent battles that make me think differently about how to manage my team's turn order and abilities. One thing that stands out to me about the structure of Mewgenics runs, aside from how they can take as long as 2 hours once you've unlocked all the zones and some secret ones, is that you kind of rarely get to make decisions about the path you're taking between battles. You mainly get to choose between the default path and a harder one with better loot and one more battle to level up a cat in, and then very occasionally between 2 types of rewards. That makes the between battle encounters feel a little bit less interesting than in some similar games, especially when they're basically a coin flip without any indication of which one will give you a bonus and which one might hurt or kill a cat. There are, of course, some more in-depth multi-stage encounters where you're picking between a bunch of options where your chances of success are determined by a cat's stats. However, since the cat whose stats you're working with is chosen randomly, there are kind of 2 layers of luck involved before you get a shot at a good outcome. It often feels completely random, but that's alright because so much of Mewgenics is doing the best you can with the circumstances beyond your control. During combat, there are so many different things in play that the interactions between cats' mutations, passives, spells, gear, environmental modifiers, and enemies can get crazy complex. And figuring out exactly what happened, or predicting what will happen, can be like investigating a crime scene, and often with just as much blood splatter. All the answers are in there somewhere if you know where to look and study the rules carefully. Sometimes it's all about, you guessed it, poop. It can get chaotic when there's a lot on screen, but there is a tactical view that clears things up, mostly. Usually, if you think some interaction might work, it probably will. Water and ice will put out fire, water will conduct electricity and zap everything that stands in it, that sort of thing. It does kind of stand out as illogical when things like robots are susceptible to bleeding, poison, and parasite infections, and the butcher class's meat hook weapon can't actually hook meat unless you luck into the right upgrade for it. But again, most of the time it works like you'd expect it to. So one of the biggest joys of playing is when a powerful team dynamic emerges as you earn new skills or raise one cat's stats after every battle. Recently, I had a squad with a monk character who could toss out meat pickups. Those usually just heal the team, but when you combine it with a butcher who can turn all those meats into minion fly familiars, and a druid who can then boost those flies' stats and turn them into killing machines, it became a way to raise an army in a single turn. On another run, I had a cleric whose health regeneration applied to the whole team, and then I got an item that let me continually boost that regen multiple times per turn, allowing my necromancer to run wild with a high damage attack that also drained half his own health. With so many skills out there, there are countless examples like this, and while you won't win the lottery with a great combo on every run, they happen more than enough to make me excited about what might come next. What is a little frustrating when I'm planning out my next moves in a tough fight where every action matters, is that there's no way to access a cat's full character sheet while you're in a battle, so you can't see their list of mutations or all their equipment's full effects when you need that information the most. It's almost all represented visually on your cats at least, but that does mean you have to remember what a cat having a second head growing out of its butt means, for example. When the rules are changing so dramatically from one run to the next, it would be great to be able to reference all of them at any time.
Meow.
But as if all those variables weren't enough already, Mewgenics throws you yet another curveball when it sends you on one of its story or side quests. Those all revolve around these unique, powerful items that you get and then have to equip, and they change the rules in a big way, and you have to take each one to a specific zone. One of the most memorable gives you a 5-second time limit on every action, and if you don't make a move, the AI will take over and move for you. I was glad I wasn't playing that one on the Steam Deck because the controls there are serviceable but not nearly as quick as a mouse and keyboard. Another one shook things up by giving my cats random selections of abilities from every class every time they leveled up, creating a team of powerful hybrids that are usually hard to come by. The story itself is pretty light and silly, don't expect any Hades-style epics here, but it is good for a few yucks as you're doing the bidding of an incompetent mad scientist. Another area where Mewgenics is truly exceptional is in its sound and music, which are fantastic in both big and subtle ways. It comes with a collection of original and hilarious songs that accompany each level.
Where's that smell coming from? Where's that smell coming from?
and the cat's meows come from a vast selection of different randomly selected voices, including some celebrity cameos. One of the best touches, though, is the crowd sounds. The very best part is what happens when one of your cats is killed in action. That gets me every time, and trust me, I've heard it a lot. Lastly, Mewgenics has a fun and surprising approach to the practice of save scumming, where you quit out of a battle that you've messed up and restart it with a knowledge of what not to do. I won't spoil what happens, but there are consequences if you abuse it. Thankfully, you do get some flexibility in case of like a power outage or a spouse demanding you stop playing that game you've been playing for 150 hours and do the dishes, but it's kind of implicit that you do have permission to save scum at least once per run, and yes, I do use that regularly. More than once, I've looked up from playing Mewgenics and realized it's 1:30 a.m. It's that kind of tactical turn-based roguelike, where every new run with a new set of mutant feline adventurers is full of potential for something you didn't even know could happen, even after dozens of hours of runs. Maybe you'll earn a completely new ability for a character class that you've used dozens of times, or you'll see a new devious enemy that's never appeared in a zone before, or you'll get a new piece of gear that completely upends the rules and chaos will ensue. You'll definitely see something hilariously gross. There will almost certainly be times you'll be sent back to your house with your tail between your legs and have to breed a new batch of cats to avenge their mulched predecessors, but you'll do it to the tune of some outstanding original songs.
Reviews editor Tom Marks here with freelance reviewer Dan Stapleton? Dan, what's going on here? Didn't you used to be my boss?
I did, and now I'm working for you. But yeah, it's how the tables have turned.
Yeah, indeed. For those who don't know, Dan very happily retired last year. We're very grateful for everything he did, and we miss him. So we brought him back to review Mewgenics because it made a lot of sense for you to be the one to review Mewgenics. Dan, you reviewed XCOM 2 and its associated expansions, Marvel Midnight Suns, Into the Breach. You've also done more roguelike-y things with stuff like Monster Train, I think 1 and 2, and then like Vampire Survivors, stuff like that. So this fits in that Venn diagram of your interests pretty well, I think.
I also have 3 cats, so it kind of made sense.
There you go. It's all of the stars are aligning. Let's start with your interest in the genre specifically. What do you like about tactics games like this? What appeals to you? What do you look for in them? Is it progression? Is it the moment-to-moment battles? That sort of thing.
I mean, it's a lot of everything involved. Like I think the biggest thing I look for is variety. I like to be thrown into a situation that I haven't seen before and try and work out how to solve it. That's something that roguelikes do really well is they just, you play the hand that you're dealt. They give you a bunch of things that you didn't choose, but, were chosen for you, and you have to make the best of that situation. And, sometimes you hit the jackpot and just steamroll everything, and other times you're praying for the next draw to work out well and, just barely hanging on until you can get some upgrades and maybe get on your feet, or maybe you just get trash and, have to start again. And in a game like this or XCOM, the things that they're very good at is high stakes because you've got permadeath, right? If you mess up, you lose your favorite guys. Having to dig yourself out of a hole and with your guys on the line, I think is what I really like about this style of game.
Let's talk about the distinction between roguelite and roguelike. Boy, I love these terms that got made up. Obviously we're not going to litigate like exactly what makes a thing a roguelite versus a roguelike. There's an endless debate that could be had there. But practically speaking, what do you typically prefer? Like, what do you gravitate towards? Because, there's merit to both. One is not better than the other. But Into the Breach is very different from a game like XCOM in terms of a long campaign or these bursts of short campaign.
Yeah, I mean, like an XCOM campaign is going to last you 20 hours or something, 20 plus, depending on how you play. But
a Mewgenics campaign a little longer than that.
Right, but it's not really the same thing because you can't really lose the campaign in Mewgenics. There's no actual fail state. It's much more like Darkest Dungeon like that. Because you can lose all of your guys in Darkest Dungeon. You can lose all of your cats in this and just come back because you've built up your progression you've built up your house in this case. And every in-game day a new stray cat shows up, and if you just get a few stray cats, you can just start again from nothing. And a couple of times I got almost down to that. I think my most of my lineage is unbroken in this game, but But I got down to just a few cats at a few.
There were some dark times.
Oh yeah.
So do you gravitate? I guess which one do you like going towards? Do you like those longer style campaign, or do you like the bite-sized stuff more often?
I mean, I like them both. Like I love the like a smaller scale deck building roguelike like Monster Train. I've played almost every daily challenge they've put out since that game came out. I missed a few because of Mewgenics, but but I love those daily challenges they throw at you with Slay the Spire and things like that, where it's got these mutators where they just change the rules. And Mewgenics is very good at that too, but rather than daily challenges, they have these side quest items that you can opt to equip and go through with like big rule changes that really freshen it up and make it feel very distinct from anything you've done before.
Let's talk about the process of reviewing a game this big, and also a game that is ostensibly not really meant to can be quote unquote beaten. There is an end, but then also that's not really like 100% the point of it. And we at IGN have a policy of generally you have to complete the game in whatever fashion that means, where it's reasonable to do so. But in a case like this, you rolled credits, big air quotes, much earlier than this. And does that complete the game? Do you have to see the secret, super secret, true ending? Would anybody hold someone to that standard for Binding of Isaac, which had also like layers and layers of endings to it?
I was the one who put in effect that policy of like you should see the end if at all possible. But also I had the caveat in there where practical. Like if it's not practical to see the end, then that's fine as long as you put in, a lot of time. And I think, because right now I have seen what I think is the final boss. I did not beat it. It destroyed me. You'd be hard pressed to tell somebody who has played 150 hours of a game that they don't know what they're talking about when they recommend it or not.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for coming on back, chatting with us about your strategy tastes. I'm really glad we got to talk to you about strategy, because whenever I think XCOM style games, I think of you. So I'm very glad we were able to have you back for this one, and hopefully it won't be the last. We'll see.
Yeah, I talked about wanting to come back and do some freelance reviews. I was thinking I'd do like some little indies and just pick up some easy ones. And you're like, hey, I've got this 200-hour game for you. I'm like, well,
don't
at
worry.
least, yeah.
I think Slay the Spire 2 is on the horizon, so
yeah, it is.
Maybe we can talk about that one after this call. If you want more from Dan's last review before he left IGN, video review, was The Altars, so you can go check that out if you want more of his opinions there. And for another strategy game recently, check out our early access review of Menace, which we just posted. And for everything else, keep it right here on IGN.